My name is Markus Keller, and the day my boss laughed while firing me was the day I started buying him. They made me carry the cardboard box policy. No backpacks out, even if the backpack came in. So the dead fern, the chipped mug, and my notebook of boring process maps went into a box with someone else's label. Graham waited by the elevator like a mater d at a bad restaurant, smile set to condescend. "Nothing personal, Markus," he said. "You'll land somewhere. Smaller." The smirk landed first. Security's master key beeped us down. I didn't look at his reflection. I looked at the Heliox logo, etched in the mirror, and saw the numbers he never sees: churn. Backlog, cost of sale, his details. I whispered them like a code dot in the lobby. He followed for the encore. "Word of advice," he added, hands buried in pockets, the posture of a man who's never carried anything heavy. "Don't poach my clients. Lawyers love hungry ex-employees." Then the laugh, short, bright, rehearsed for exits. "Noted," I said. "There's nothing to win on marble dot outside." February air lifted the fern like it wanted out too. On my trunk, I opened the notebook to a page titled "After" and wrote one line. "Stop chasing logos. Build a dashboard worth a signature." I'm not the villain of this story, and I'm not the victim. I'm the operator. The kind who keeps receipts, not grudges. The guard cleared his throat. "You good, Mr. Keller?" "Better than he thinks," I said, and I meant it. The first hour after a firing is noisy. People text variations of "Are you okay?" as if the answer ever fits in 3 words. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, slid the box onto my kitchen table, and did the thing that keeps me from making loud mistakes. I made a list. Inventory, Markus. Start with what's real. Paper, I laid out the severance packet, the non-disparagement clause, the non-compete. 12 months for direct competitors within a 100-mile radius, narrowly defined around enterprise integration services. My pen hovered. Heliox sells a lot of fluff under that umbrella-wisery transformation. Workshops that smell like cologne. What I actually built were dashboards that told the truth. There are ways to tell the truth without violating a clause written by someone who hates specifics. Devices. I booted my personal laptop and set my work phone on airplane mode. The only thing that leaves this apartment tonight is me. No data, no confusion, no forensic surprise. I logged my personal accounts into a brand new email and spun up a clean cloud drive named Arc Scrapbook. The name meant nothing yet. It kept me from writing revenge. Notes. I flipped my notebook to the pages that were mine. Hand-drawn process maps. Service-level math, a backlog triage template I drafted at 2 a.m. last month when Heliox Premium Client pinged support for the 7th time in a week. None of this is proprietary in the legal sense. It's thinking. Thinking can travel. Capital. In my savings, 42,600 euros. In stocks, I could liquidate without crying. Maybe another. Euro 18,000. In debt, manageable. In recurring obligations, rent, utilities, a Volvo that starts in winter. I wrote the numbers in blunt ink. 6 to 9 months of runway if I live like a spreadsheet and eat like a monk. I can do both. People Priya Desai, former sales ops at Heliox. 2 months from a vesting cliff, she has already earned 10 times over. Alina Park, small private equity, backs operators with receipts. Malik Farouk, employment lawyer who reads like a chess player and speaks like a metronome. Dana Ruiz, CFO at Caldera Systems, our biggest account. Respects dashboards, resents theater. I texted Priya one line from my new email, "I'm out. Coffee next week." She replied 30 seconds later, "Tomorrow." "And bring the good pen." "Market?" I sketched a map. At the fat center, Heliox, bloated, addicted to retainers, allergic to transparency. Around it, 3 scrappy firms with good engineers and bad sales. 5 freelancers who can build anything and never bill on time. A dozen clients who hate their reports but fear the switching cost more. On the edge, North Arc Solid Tech, poor pipeline, rumored to be considering options. I drew arrows between everything until it looked like a transit system. Where do you enter a city you used to live in but no longer have keys to? Through the stations, nobody guards. Rules. I wrote my rules in big letters. Do nothing dirty. Clean room, everything. If it can't stand in court, it can't stand. Build in public, where it helps. Pricing SLAs, real-time delivery dashboards. Cash is oxygen, prepaid where possible. No office, contractors only. Kill burn. Replace outrage with receipts. Every claim needs a timestamp. Don't chase Heliox's logo. Chase the problem they pretend to solve. The second hour, I gave 2 consequences. The non-compete meant I couldn't set up shop across the street and call it Heliox, but honest. Fine. Europe is larger than a radius. Remote clients live outside circles, and enterprise integration services is a phrase that hides more than it reveals. What I do is simpler. Connect data to decisions in a way humans can read. If I call it by its name, their umbrella doesn't fit. I opened a blank doc and typed a product I could sell without a lawsuit. Service level truth dashboard. It would plug into whatever stack a client had and show 4 numbers Heliox could never commit to on paper. Time to acknowledge. Time to resolve. Reopen rate. Satisfaction. No secret sauces. Just measurement that can't be argued with. If that feels like therapy for executives, charge for it like therapy. The third hour belonged to memory, not stolen lists memory. Who did I help? Who thanked me without being asked? Who forwarded my dashboards to their board? I wrote first names and company types, not emails, and jotted what problem we solved. Malik once told me, if you can reconstruct your network from public traces, you own it. If you need a stolen CSV, you don't. I would reconstruct at 21 o'clock. I allowed myself one indulgence, a walk. Hamburg in February is a lesson in gray. It suited me. I passed the Heliox building out of habit and then forced myself to take a different street. New routes for new brains. In the window of a small cafe, a sign said, Wi-Fi is free, refills are not. I laughed for the first time since the lobby. Back home, I bought a domain, arc-1.io. It meant nothing. It meant everything. Arc, as in trajectory. 1, as in focus. IO, as in input-output. The only relationship that matters. Finally, I opened a new spreadsheet and titled it 6 months. Not a threat, a plan. Month 1, validate offer with 2 pilots. Month 2, case study rights. Month 3, contractor bench. Month 4, inbound content. Month 5, first hire, if revenue permits. Month 6, options raise, acquire, or stay lean. On the last line, I wrote the only sentence my ego was allowed to read twice. If a door opens, it will be the one you built. At midnight, I put the box with the dead fern in the closet. The mug stayed on the counter. The notebook stayed on the table. I left the severance packet under a glass paperweight and turned off the kitchen light. My name is Markus Keller. I don't have a job. I have a plan. And plans, when they meet numbers, tend to become something else. The morning after, I treated my apartment like a war room and a library. Coffee, silence, whiteboard. Heliox's power has never been its tech. It's the theater. Big decks, vague promises, retainers that reward slowness. Theater only works when the audience is seated in the dark. Turn on the house lights and people start checking their watches. Angle 1. Light, I sketched the simplest thing I could sell without a lawyer developing a rash truth in 4 metrics. Time to acknowledge. Time to resolve. Reopen rate. Satisfaction. If I can pipe those 4 from any stack and show them in English and numbers, clients will see what they're paying for and what they're not. It's not genius. It's plumbing with a conscience. Angle 2. Edges. Every market has edges where no one bothers to stand guard. Heliox focuses on big retainers with procurement departments that confuse price with prestige. The edges are the boring divisions, regional arms, subsidiaries, pilot budgets that can say yes without a parade. They don't need vision. They need a working Tuesday. If I make Tuesdays work, Fridays will follow. Angle 3. North Arc. For a year, I'd watched North Arc from the corner of my eye. Good engineers, late invoices, founders allergic to sales. Rumors said they were solvent, like a man who pays rent and never fixes the leaky tap. They had the component I never had time to build at Heliox, a lightweight connector that actually speaks human to legacy systems. If they were considering options, options include me. I called Priya from a park bench because parks remind you that growth is quiet and relentless. You sound organized, she said after I laid out the map. I sound calm when the checklist is loud, I said. Coffee. Bringing the good pen, she said, and hung up at the cafe. We sat by the window like we weren't planning anything. Priya is the kind of operator who can make chaos look like a calendar. What's the wedge? She asked, publicly measurable. Honesty, I said. A service-level dashboard we sign and publish. No retainer unless we hit the numbers. No mystery meetings. If Heliox is selling fog, we sell forecasts. She grinned. You'll scare procurement and seduce CFOs. I only need one person with a budget to love me, I said. Then I need 3? She tapped her pen. Non-compete. Defined, narrow, and local, I said. We sell outside the radius to start. Remote, different product label. Council blessed. We document everything. She nodded, already rearranging her life in her head. My cliff is in 57 days, she said. After that, my loyalty belongs to people who ship. Then we start with you as a friend of the court. No data, just advice, I said. You review my draft processes on your own time. If it's good, we make it your day job when it's safe. She slid a napkin toward me. Write me the first client. Dana at Caldera Systems, I said. She hates Fozzie. She loves dashboards. And she has a skunkworks budget for operational truth. Do we have a way in without stepping on the non-compete? Yes, I said. We don't sell integration. We sell measurement. It's a mirror, not a wrench. Priya wrote mirror, not wrench, and underlined it twice. And what scares you? Heliox lawyering, I said. Allegations I took, lists I didn't take. Also a dry run that fails if we measure before we can fix. Then we publish. The limits, she said, make a promise we can keep and a promise they can count. It's hard to argue with a person who believes in nouns. I texted Malik, need a 30-minute sanity. Check on a clean room outreach and a product that measures the work rather than performs it. He called in 10. Good, he said after listening. 2 rules. Outreach only via public info and reconstructed memory, no scraped email lists, no exports. And write a clean room affidavit to dates, devices, accounts. You'll never need it unless you need it. I'll draft it now, I said. 3rd rule, he added. When you describe your product, don't reference Heliox or your prior work. Describe a problem the world has and your solution. The world is larger than your ex-employer. I wrote, the world is larger than your ex-employer, and it felt like a breath in the afternoon. I sent Dana a note through her public LinkedIn and her corporate contact form, 2 channels that said, I'm not sneaking. Subject, proposal. For a measurable service-level dashboard pilot, no integration work required. Body, 3 paragraphs, 2 charts, 0 adjectives. I attached a 1-pager with a sample screen of the 4 metrics, anonymized, and a short why now that read like a weather report. Your ticket volume has held steady, while time too. Resolve has crept from 11 hours to 16 hours over 2 quarters public status page. This pilot would instrument the path and surface the choke points with SLA targets. Set by you. Month to month. Cancel anytime. I hit send and closed the laptop. If silence followed, I'd still have proof that my approach didn't require luck to be ethical. Then I called. Northark. A founder named Sander answered with the fatigue of a man who sleeps beside his laptop. I pitched him not as prey, but as a partner. You've built the connector everyone pretends to have, I said. I'm building the dashboard everyone promises. You're tired of chasing invoices. I'm allergic to retainers. Want to compare calendars and see if together we look like a real company? He laughed the way exhausted people laugh when they hear their own thoughts from someone else. We're not for sale, he said, reflexive. I'm not buying. I said, honest and future true. Not today, I'm combining. If it works, one day we talk about paper. He agreed to coffee. Operators can smell their kind. At 18 o'clock, my inbox chimed. Dana, if you can measure without touching our stack, show me Thursday. Bring a sample. Bring whoever you trust. I texted Priya. Thursday, your pen. She responded with a selfie. Of the pen and a calendar invite, I ended the day on the whiteboard. Drawing a Venn diagram. What I can promise, what I can deliver, what I can prove. The overlap was a narrow almond, bright and small. That is where Heliox never stands too narrow for theater, too bright for fog. Angles they missed. They never believed a person could build a business out of telling the truth about work. They never believed a person like me would be patient enough to make it beautiful. Thursday lived on a single promise. Show. Don't swagger. I arrived at Caldera Systems with a backpack that contained nothing a lawyer could misread: laptop, HDMI adapter, a printed one-pager, and a pen that writes even when held upside down. Priya met me in the lobby with the conspiratorial grin of someone who has chosen a future. 2 rules. She murmured in the elevator. We don't touch their stack. We don't badmouth Heliox. We let the numbers do the violence. Numbers are pacifists, I said. They just refuse to lie. Dana Ruiz, Caldera's CFO, ushered us into a small conference room that had seen more excuses than results. She is the kind of executive who keeps a calendar in her head and a stopwatch in her eyes. You have 25 minutes, she said. At 26, I will like you less, even if you're brilliant. Then we'll end at 22, I said, and started the timer on my phone where she could see it. Slide 1 wasn't a slide. It was a live page for boxes, each with a number pulled from a mock dataset we generated from public status updates and sample tickets Priya had rewritten to avoid any proprietary scent. Time to acknowledge. Time to resolve. Reopen. Rate. Satisfaction. Each box had a spark line and a target line that stopped a centimeter before the present. Like a breath about to be taken. None of this touches your systems, I said. This is the shape of the story we'll tell if you let us instrument the path. The promise we make is not a number, it's a mirror. Dana leaned forward. How would you instrument without access? Human first, Priya said, sliding the one-pager across. We start with a 2-day observation, where tickets get born, where they queue, who owns the baton, and where it's dropped. We plug in at 3 seams. You control notification hooks, metadata tags, and a daily export of anonymized status transitions. No agents, no black boxes. We publish the definitions before we measure, I added. If there's a fight later, it's about goals, not facts. Dana's mouth did a thing people do when they encounter the absence of salesmanship and the risk. You can cancel, I said. Month to month. If at any point you feel exposed without progress, pull the plug. Also, we commit our SLA to you in writing and publish our misses. If we can't live with transparency, we shouldn't sell it." She checked the timer. 7 minutes left. Cost. "Pilot is €18,000 for 6 weeks, I said. "If we miss more than one weekly target we set together, we refund 30% of the pilot. If we hit, we move to a €12,000 month subscription. Cancel any time. Refunds are cute," she said. "Speaks like a man who plans to win." "I plan to measure," I said. "Winning is a consequence." She smiled, then small. "Precise. Okay, grids make me happy. But if you embarrass my teams, even accidentally, I will bury you in polite email." "We're allergic to shame," Priya said. "We're interested in flow." Dana stood. "Get my operations director in here." 2 hours later, we had a signed pilot with a case study clause if we kept our promises. Priya and I walked out of the building not like victors, but like carpenters who had been hired to fix a door that should have worked the first time. "First bloodless win," Priya said, exhaling. "We didn't say Heliox once." "Let them keep their name," I said. "We'll keep the nouns." On the U-band back to my place, I texted Malik a photo of the signature page. He responded with a confetti emoji he probably sent once a year. Then the advice: document your clean room setup today. Folder names, device IDs, the works. I spent the afternoon doing exactly that. New laptop user. New cloud project folder. AREADME.MD with dates. Who touched what. And how we'd keep client data separate from myth. I wrote a 1-page clean room affidavit, signed it, scanned it, and sent it to Malik to TIMESTAMP. At 18 o'clock, my phone lit with a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring out. A minute later, a message. Cease and desist, Heliox. Attached, a PDF alleging that I had contacted Heliox clients in violation of non-compete and used confidential information to solicit business. I read it once, then read my rules taped above the desk. Replace outrage with receipts. Forwarded. I texted Malik. He called. "They're phishing," he said. "We'll reply with your affidavit, your public-only outreach logs, and the product description that clearly isn't enterprise integration services. Also, we'll ask for the specific evidence they claim to have. They won't have it." "Dana is not listed on my non-compete as a restricted account," I said. "We're not integrating." "Good," he said. "We'll send a polite letter that reads like a steel beam." We did. The next morning, Heliox's counsel responded with a softening that smelled like fear. "We reserve rights." Lawyers. Reserve rights like restaurants reserve tables. It means they don't have one yet. Meanwhile, the work began. Priya and I sat with Caldera's operations lead and mapped the first mile of every ticket, where it enters, where it stalls, who owns. The next action. We tagged the path with lightweight metadata and set up a daily export feed that landed in our clean bucket. No agents, no integrations, no chance of being accused of plugging into something we shouldn't touch. By week's end, the first real numbers appeared on the live page. The truth is never surprising if you've ever had a real job. Time to acknowledge was fine. Time to resolve sagged after handoff to a vendor queue. Reopen rates spiked on Mondays because humans favor blasting through Friday tickets with optimism instead of closure. We wrote the story without adjectives. Here is the jam. Here is the valve. Here is the schedule that will unjam the jam. Dana forwarded the dashboard link to her coup with a subject line that made me like her more. Finally, a mirror. She CC'd me on the reply. "If they can hold this for 3 weeks, double the pilot and loop me in." On Monday, the first test came. Heliox's account manager emailed Dana. "We noticed a third party measuring our work. That introduces risk and confusion. We recommend routing all reporting through our program office to ensure alignment. Dana replied in a single sentence that could be framed. Alignment follows reality. I didn't gloat. I screen captured and filed it under courage. The second test came from within. An engineer on the vendor team bristled at our visibility and proposed slowing the export cadence too weakly. Priya invited him to our daily stand-up and asked one question. What would make your day quieter? He described the noise: duplicate tickets, unclear ownership, Friday optimism. We changed a label, moved a handoff. Kay created a Friday lock rule with a human-sounding note. Do Monday's work on Monday. By week 3, the numbers bent. Time to resolve fell from 16 hours to 9.5 hours. Reopen rate dipped under 5%. Satisfaction nudged from 3.8 to 4.35. The graph didn't look heroic. It looked like a person stood up from a couch and decided to walk every day. That's the miracle most execs will pay for. Dana sent the green light on the case study. 3 sentences, 4 numbers, 1 chart. We scrubbed names, kept the nouns. We put it on a single page with a URL that could live on a billboard. The same day. NorthArc's founder, Sander, messaged after seeing the case study on my tiny site. Coffee turned into a question. We're tired. Want to talk options beyond? Coffee. Options are my favorite nouns, I wrote back. The world is larger than your ex-employer, and the first win that drew no blood. Drew something better. Gravity. Momentum makes people careless. I wrote that on my whiteboard and then proved myself right. The morning our Caldera case study went live, my inbox filled with 2 kinds of messages: quiet interest from operators and loud noise from Heliox. The interest was measurable: 3 inquiries from mid-market. Teams asking if we could hold a mirror without touching their stack. The noise arrived as a thicker, angrier cease and desist. This time, ceasing Heliox's outside counsel and hinting at immediate injunctive relief. They attached a screenshot of my tiny website where the case study lived. Malik called before I could forward it. I've seen it, he said, somehow always 5 minutes ahead. Their escalating tone, not substance. But we still need to remove any excuse they could weaponize. What excuse? I asked. The footer, he said. You used the phrase integration journey in 1 sentence. Their non-compete defines your restricted field as enterprise integration services. It's thin gruel, but a hungry lawyer can make soup from it. I stared at my own words and felt stupid. I had written, we don't replace your integration partner. Light the path of your integration journey. A metaphor becomes a rope if you let the wrong hands tug it. Fixing it, I said, editing. 2, we don't replace your vendors. We measure service flow, no agents, no code. Malik exhaled. Good. Now let's give the court what they never expect. Receipts before they ask. He drafted a reply that read like geometry. Attached. My clean room affidavit with device IDs and folder structures. Time-stamped outreach logs showing only public channels. The updated page. K. And a line that ended the drama without inviting more. We remain open to reasonable guardrails. We will not cede the right to measure publicly observable service performance. Counsel went quiet. That kind of quiet hums. The misstep cost us more than pride. On the same afternoon, Caldera's operations director pinged. Heliox flagged legal exposure around your reporting cadence. Dana says proceed, but can we slow down public references until the pilot concludes? It wasn't a pullback. But it was a reminder. 1 sloppy noun can tax trust. Understood, I wrote. No public updates until after week 6. You'll still get daily truth. Priya joined our video stand-up, eyebrows up. We tripped a wire, she said. We learned where it was, I replied. Now we root around it. We pivoted in 3 moves. language freeze. We created a glossary in a shared doc every term. We'd use service flow, time to acknowledge, handoff, reopen to find in plain litigation-safe language. No metaphors that could be integration. No jargon that could be inside baseball. Priya made everyone sign it like a pledge. Words are tools, she said. We checked them in and out. Proof cadence. Instead of public case study teasers, we built a private client portal for Caldera that looked like a weather app. Today's conditions, 5-day trend, long-term climate. We added a changelog that recorded every tweak we made too. Labels, exports, and targets. If anyone later alleged we manipulated numbers, the log would be our spine. Risk map. I drew a 2x2 on the whiteboard. Legal risk, high-low versus business value, high-low. Anything in high risk, low value got cute phrases, spicy tweets, victory laps. High value, high risk got counsel First North Arc conversations, enterprise. Pilots, low risk, high value got our energy, the portal, the glossary, the daily wins. The world rewarded the pivot quickly. Caldera's numbers kept bending in the good direction. Our portal became the meeting agenda instead of another attachment to ignore. The vendor engineer who wanted weekly exports became our most reliable collaborator after we linked his Friday lock rule to a visible Monday drop in reopen rates. He started each stand-up with, "Here's how I'll win my day," and the room shifted around him. Then the thing I was both waiting for and dreading arrived. A LinkedIn message from a Heliox client inside the non-compete radius. Saw your Caldera dashboard? Impressive. Can you do this without touching our stack? Our executive team wants visibility, not another tool. The logo was large, the fees would be meaningful, and my clause would be angry. I typed and deleted. Twice. Finally, thank you. For the next few months, we're focusing on clients outside the Hamburg radius. If your team has a regional office or subsidiary, we can serve remotely. I'm happy to explore a measurement pilot that doesn't intersect Heliox's current scope. It felt like walking past a pastry case on an empty stomach. It also felt like oxygen.priy, a messaged me privately. Proud of you, she wrote. We don't light a match near dry grass. That night, Sander from North Arc called. Our invoice aging looks like a history book, he said. We have IP, we don't have lungs. If we were to talk about options, what does your option look like? Simple, I said. We keep you solvent and focused by absorbing your product into ours. You keep your team. We take sales and delivery. You get equity and an earnout if we hit milestones. No debt, no heroics. Come by tomorrow, he said. Bring the person who writes your checklists. I brought Priya North Arc's office was 2 rooms and a stubborn plant. Their connector demo did what Heliox's sales deck claimed and never delivered. It translated old systems grunts into modern sentences without asking for a blood oath from it. Sander's co-founder, Mira, watched us watch the demo and said, we built this to make our jobs easier. Turns out, jobs don't buy software. People do. We sell to the people who hate fog, Priya said. We're allergic to it. We drafted a term sheet on a whiteboard like it was an art project. Arc 1 My LLC renamed would acquire North Arcs. Assets for a mix of 40% equity and a modest cash component. We could cover from our pilot revenue plus a small line from Elena's fund. Sander and Mira would lead product and keep their team. We'd sunset North Arc's brand into Arc One within 90 days. The earnout kicked if we hit 3 targets, 10 clients on the connector within 6 months. Churn under 5% and NPS over 60. I hate acronyms, Mira said. Keep the smiley face. Then, I said. The number just helps the smile show up on a spreadsheet. We shook hands, not binding, but binding enough to build mood boards in our heads. Malik drafted the real paper overnight with the speed of a person who knows clarity is mercy. Alina agreed to a €250,000 revolving line secured against receivables. Not my soul. We were still small, but small had a motor now. Heliox tried one more angle, a LinkedIn post from Graham about copycats who sell dashboards instead of real transformation. He attached a stock photo of a mirror. The comments were polite. The algorithm yawned. Dana texted me the link with a 2-word note. Keep walking. So we did. We signed the North Arc APA 2 weeks later. I stood in a rented notary office, pen hovering, and felt something I hadn't let myself feel since. The lobby. Relief, not vengeance, not victory. Relief that the plan could breathe. On the way out, stop by the cafe with the Wi-Fi is free. Refills are not sign and bought a refill. The barista recognized the pen from Priya's selfie and said, "Big day. Bigger Tuesday." I said, "Today is just the invoice." The misstep had taught me the only lesson that matters in fights you plan to win by staying. Precision beats passion. The pivot turned a stumble into a stride. And somewhere across town, a man who laughed at elevators was learning that silence is the stage direction right before the worst line of his career. Do you have a minute? The signature ink on North Arc's asset purchase agreement was barely dry when the first real door swung on its hinges. At 8:12 on a gray Tuesday, an email from Caldera's CFO, Dana, landed with the subject line executives use when they've already decided, if you can do this in 30 days, we'll talk bigger. The body was cleaner than a contract. Our largest division is threatening to move budget unless the support backlog clears. Heliox promised. Again, I need numbers, not comfort. Can Arc1 take the backlog triage as a fixed-fee sprint without touching our stack? 30 days. Daily transparency. We decide future scope on day 31. A fixed-fee triage on someone else's broken pipeline. Exactly the kind of work consultants bid high for and deliver slowly. Exactly the kind of work I'd been designing Arc1 to make. Boring. Priya read it twice and slid her chair back like a sprinter settling into blocks. If we accept, we must publish the playbook on day 1, she said. Every step visible. No heroics, just steps. Fixed fee? I asked. She nodded. €95,000 for 30 days. We burn down the backlog, instrument the path, and leave a dashboard that makes Heliox's next promise a matter of public record. I texted Malik, fixed fee, triage, no integration, public transparency. Draft clean SAO, with definitions and a change order kill switch. His reply arrived before my coffee. Cooled. Scope must be a fence, not poetry. Define backlog, define done, define outside scope. Define export cadence. Add a clause that any party who slows data flow extends the deadline day for day at client's option. By noon, we'd signed. Our Coney 2 founders borrowed from a failed logo. One founder borrowed from a tired one, had a sprint that could tilt a market. We split the work like a kitchen on a busy night. Priya owned the daily stand-up cadence. The work, visible board, and the human choreography who pulls, who pushes, who declares done. Sander and Mira owned the connector tweaks to make the daily. Export IDIA-proof time-stamped transitions. Baton owner, age buckets, reason codes. I owned the triage taxonomy, the SLA ladder, and the performance dashboard that would be visible to Dana's team at 8 o'clock and 17 o'clock every day. Rules again saved us from cleverness. We invented none. We wrote them down. No new tickets enter the triage pool until the pool shrinks below a threshold. New fire goes to a separate lane. The ocean doesn't empty by widening the river. Ownership is singular. If one ticket belongs to team, it belongs to no one. Names, not groups. Groups can meet. Names must act. Reopen amnesty. For the first 5 days, anyone can reopen any ticket without shame. After day 5, reopen counts against the metric. Teach the behavior you want, then keep it honest. Friday lock. No closing complex issues after 14 o'clock Friday. If it can't be tested by a different human by 16 o'clock, it waits for Monday. Optimism is not an SLA. The Heliox account manager tried to insert himself into day 1 with a calendar invite titled Alignment. Priya declined with a single sentence. Alignment follows reality. Your read-only access to the dashboard arrives at 17 o'clock. He replied with a paragraph. She ignored it and shipped the invite when the dashboard went live. The only argument we entertained was the kind that moves a number. Day 3, we discovered the first dragon masquerading as paperwork. A vendor queue marked a waiting customer held 218 tickets where customer meant a shared inbox no one opens. We wrote a small rule in the export to show a red badge when a ticket sat in that state for more than 24 hours. Priya drafted a simple change. The inbox forwarded to a person with morning duty. The next morning, 137 tickets moved without a meeting. Day 6, the reopen rate spiked. Not failure clarity. Engineers, emboldened by amnesty, started surfacing half-fixed work that had been sleeping in green. The chart looked worse. Dana called me at 19:20. Talked me off the ledge, she said. This is the spike you pay for, I said. It's truth entering a system that rewarded optimistic lies. It will come down by day 10 if we honor the Friday lock and assign single owners. If it doesn't, we missed something, and I'll tell you. It's a strange comfort to be told. To wait, she said. But the portal helps. The portal isn't the product, I said. The behavior is. By day 10, reopen dipped below baseline and kept falling. The backlog burned down from 1,143 to 704. Not heroic, steady, we celebrated with a celebratory rule. No celebration until day 15. Heliox, smelling danger, sent a program update to the division. 3 slides, 5 colors, no numbers. It ended with, "We are aligned on the journey." Dana forwarded it to me and Priya with a 2-word subject line. Theater review. In the body. Keep going. On day 12, we found the second dragon. A QA complete state that might as well have been purgatory. Tickets languished there for an average of 4.5 days because QA belonged to a calendar, not a person. We added a rule. QA ownership rotates daily, announced at 8 o'clock in the stand-up. An unclaimed QA at 12 o'clock goes to the person with the fewest open items. No discussion. The queue drained like a sink finally connected to a pipe. On day 15, the burn. Chart crossed the line that makes CFOs text emojis. Dana's came with words. Board meets in 2 weeks. Show them this without adjectives. While Arquan ran, NorthArc's connector became less their tech and more our habit. Mira built a one-click export button that a tired human could hit without thinking. Sandor hardened the time stomping so no one could accuse us of cooking the data. Every morning, our log wrote its own alibi. The door that opened at Caldera knocked. A second time from a different address. A regional unit of a Heliox flagship account wrote from a personal Gmail. If your 30-day sprint is real, we want it. We can sign regionally. The logo was big enough to dent our claws if we were careless. Kula Malik wrote the litmus test into my spine. If you can't defend it in court with a map and a calendar, don't sign it. We routed the inquiry to a subsidiary outside the radius and offered a measurement-only pilot. They accepted. Doors behave when you treat them like doors, not walls. Day 23. Our backlog line threatened to flatten above target. We were running out of easy wins. That phrase offends me. Nothing is easy when humans are tired. Priya convened a 30-minute retro, asked 3 questions, and only 3. What hurts every day? What helped this week? What will we stop doing? Tomorrow, an engineer named Katie said, we stop retriaging tickets that have already been triaged this week. It's performative work. We killed retriage ceremonies. The line resumed its descent. Day 29, the metrics read like a different company. Backlog down 62%. Time to resolve from 16 hours to 8.1 H. Reopen rate under 3%. Satisfaction at 4.55 with comments that sounded like relief, not applause. The dashboard didn't gloat. Just held. Dana scheduled a 30-minute debrief and opened with the only question. That mattered if I cancel Heliox on this division? Can Arquan on board in 2 weeks without lighting a legal fire? Yes, I said, because we had already built the runbooks while we sprinted. Measurement stays measurement. Any hands-on change runs through your vendors or your people. We show work in daylight. She nodded. Board meets Thursday. Bring this and bring your price. On my tram ride home, Alina called. Lenders talk, she said. Heliox's line is twitching. If Caldera pulls a division, their covenants may crack. Be ready. For what? I asked, knowing for the call. Where a sinking ship asks a swimmer for a rope, she said. You don't throw ropes. You buy lifeboats at a discount. I looked up at the winter evening, pressing its palms against Hamburg's glass, and thought about doors. They don't open because you deserve them. They open because you built the hinge, counted the screws, and brought the right screwdriver at the right hour. Priya texted a photo of our whiteboard with one new line scrawled at the top. No victory laps, just longer hallways. The door had opened. Beyond it, a corridor I hadn't seen from the lobby. And at the far end, the office. Where a laugh once echoed was beginning to sound like an empty room. The boardroom at Caldera smelled like strong coffee and recent decisions. Dana sat at the head with a stack of papers she would never read because the numbers already lived behind her eyes. Beside her, the division coup scrolled our portal on. A tablet like it was the morning news. The operations director, our daily counterpart, had. The relaxed posture of someone who has stopped apologizing for problems he did not create. This is not a pitch. Dana opened. This is an autopsy with a pulse. I nodded. Priya placed a single page at each Cherno deck. Just a snapshot of 4 metrics and the line every executive wants to believe in. A trend that bends and stays bent. Day 1 to day 30, I said, pointing to the timeline. We didn't add tools. We moved behavior. We made work visible. We assigned names to verbs. We cut Friday heroics. We gave Monday honesty a job. The coup tapped the backlog line. That drop at day 12. QA ownership, Priya said. Moved it from calendar to human. The sink got a drain. He smiled like someone remembering the mercy of a simple fix. That spike at day 6. A board member asked, reopen amnesty, I said. The worst day of any diet is the day you tell the truth. The second worst is better. We built for the second. Dana steepled her fingers. Can you keep this drop if we remove Heliox from the division and route service through our Quan's cadence with our engineers and vendors intact? Yes, I said, because we don't perform your work. We instrument and choreograph it. You keep the hands. We keep the mirror and the metronome. And legal? She asked. We stay inside the lines, I said. Measurement isn't. Integration, any hands-on change runs through your people. Our SAO reads like a fence, not a poem. She turned to the room. I'm moving this division off Heliox, effective in 2 weeks. Arquan takes over the cadence and measurement. Heliox can bid to remain as a vendor to the engineers if they like sunlight. An older board member raised an eyebrow. Optics. Heliox is strategic partner in our last 3 reports. Optics follow reality, Dana said. And the room followed her voice the way good rooms do. Aquu, price pre-op. I handed her a printed half-sheet, 2 parts. A monthly service cadence fee 45,000 euros, cancel any time. And a performance bonus quarterly if the trend holds or improves tiers based on objective targets. If we miss 2 weeks in a quarter, we forfeit the bonus. If we miss 3, you cut the fee by 20% until we fix it. People don't usually price like this, the coup said. We don't usually buy like this, Dana replied, signing. She slid the pen to the coup. Change management by contract, not by pep talk. We shook hands, no applause. Priya whispered, breathe like someone reminding a swimmer they're still in water. The next 12 days were the most orchestrated we'd been since the sprint began. You don't take a division off a vendor and hand it to a small firm without tweeting the future in advance. We built the runbook as if a stranger would inherit it. Tomorrow, daily stand-up, 8:30, 15 minutes, hard stop. Each owner reads their lane. Acknowledged, working, blocked, needs decision. No adjectives, dashboard updates. 8 o'clock yesterday's close. 17 o'clock midday check. Automated with a human note only if something strange happens. Fire. Lane, any new critical issue gets tagged, goes to a rotating 2-person squad with a visible end time. No one else touches fire. Friday lock, automated warning at 13:30. Anything closed 14 o'clock to 16 o'clock. Must be tested by a different human before end of day, or it reopens Monday by rule. Reopen amnesty, expired. Truth now costs, as it should. But shame never runs a system, only signals do. We trained Caldera's internal coordinators on a 60-minute video call that Priya ran like a first day of school orientation. We're not the teacher, she said. We're the bell. The bell rings the same for everyone, and it rings when it should. You will love it because you will stop guessing. The day the division switched, Heliox finally reacted like a cornered animal, not with a bite, but with a memo. Transition Risk Assessment, it was titled, and it did what such documents do. Prophesied doom, loss of continuity, vendor confusion, KPI volatility. They CC'd enough people to qualify as a press release. Dana replied with a single link. Our portal, visible read only to Heliox now by contract. Continuity is a graph, she wrote. Welcome. Heliox's account manager tried to schedule a weekly alignment to review our numbers for work consistency. Priya declined with a template we workshopped into steel. We don't review reality. We act on it. You have read only access. See you at outcomes. On day 4 post-switch, the first wobble hit. One of the vendor teams missed 2 consecutive handoffs. The backlog line hiccuped. The old habit trite, an email, escalate, blame-itched. At the edges of the room, Priya instead walked to the whiteboard and drew 4 boxes. Intake, triage, work, QA. She wrote 3 names. Arrowed a baton, circled a clock. Who owns the next verb? She asked. The operations director laughed. Softly. I do, he said, and picked up the marker. The line corrected at week 2. The metrics did something sellers talk about and systems earn. They stabilized, not just improved, stabilized. A graph that doesn't wobble is a lullaby to executives. Dana sent a 1-line email to her CEO. Noise down, numbers up. The reply, a thumbs-up emoji, and, unusually, a period after it. The day after the stability showed its face, Alina called. Heliox's lender pulled a covenant. Payroll spooked. I expect a quiet strategic review to go loud by next week. Can't gloat, I said. I need to plan. You plan. I'll shop debt, she said. There's nothing as cheap as a company that needs to be sold on a Tuesday. We matched Arquan's cadence to Caldera's other pain points. A coup. Asked if we could help with onboarding speed for a new product line. We wrote a micro-cadence, a 20-minute daily for 1 month with a 3-metric mini dashboard. It wasn't in our original scope. It was in our repeatable model. I added a line to our pricing. Adjacent cadences are discounted while primary. Cadence remains in good standing. Dana circled it with a smile. You understand budgets, she said. Halfway through the quarter, we held our first internal retro as Arquan plus North Arc. We sat in a 2-bright room over a bakery that believed in butter and asked the 3 questions Priya always asks. Sandra admitted he'd been tempted to optimize the export with magic that would have looked like cooking the books. We don't move numbers, I said. We move humans. Mira proposed a feature, a public promise page for clients, that lists the definitions of each metric, their targets, and our current performance. If we publish our aspiration and our misses, she said, no one can claim we changed the game after kickoff. We built it in a weekend. The promise page became the link Dana sent to anyone who asked, "How is it going?" The page has a power I had not anticipated. It made excuses feel expensive. That week, the second knock came, louder. The regional unit of a Heliox marquee accounts safely outside my non-compete. Radius asked for a 30-day triage of their own. They had seen our promise page, not our pitch. Priya wrote the sow from the last one and changed 3 nouns. Malik blessed it, as he blesses fences that have locked before. We staffed the account with people who had never worked at Heliox. Bias. Inoculation by design. The sprint started on a Monday. By Wednesday, I got a message from someone I had not heard from since the elevator. "Graham, coffee." He wrote, "There's a world in which this is mutually beneficial." I stared at the sentence for a long time, then at the whiteboard, where Priya had once written no victory laps, just longer hallways. "Sure," I typed. "Thursday, 8 o'clock, the atrium at your building." Malik called within minutes, Dana. It turned out, copied him as a courtesy when she saw Graham's name in my email. "You know this is a prelude to a sale," he said. "He's fishing for the speed of your boat." "I'll bring a ruler," I said. "Not a motor. Bring Alina," he said. "And bring the phrase assets, not liabilities, in your pocket." The Turning Point account had done its real work. Not just a revenue stream. A proof. Proof that made a lender twitch. A board lean, a rival wobble. And a man who laughed in a lobby, asked to meet before office hours. We left the bakery. Bright room and stepped into a cold Hamburg evening. Priya pulled her scarf up. Sander shoved his hands into his jacket. Myra tucked a notebook under her arm like a small, warm animal. We didn't look like owners. We looked like people who had somewhere to be. On the tram, my phone buzzed with Dana's latest, a photo of the promise page on a big screen in a glass room. "Board likes verbs," the caption read. I closed my eyes and saw the lobby again, not the marble, not the guard, not the smirk. The negative space in the logos. Oh, where numbers once flowed in my head. The space was filling now. Not with rage, with receipts, with roots, with a quietly expanding hallway that, if we kept walking, would eventually turn left into an office with a view I had earned the right not to stare at. Tomorrow would be coffee, and after coffee, terms, and after terms, paper, and after paper. A walk through a lobby where the laugh would echo only in memory, which is to say, nowhere that matters. Graham chose a table that let him see every entrance. Predators and paranoids prefer sightlines for the same reason. "Markus," he said, standing half an inch taller than his spine allowed. "You look busy." "Working Tuesdays," I said, setting my notebook down. Alina slid into the seat beside me with a smile that meant term sheets lived in her bloodstream. Graham clocked her and recalibrated his face. I'll be direct, he said. Heliox is exploring strategic options. Market headwinds, client consolidation, yada yada. There's a world where we partner. You keep doing your searched for a word that would offend me dashboards, and we bring you under our umbrella. We can acquire Arquan, keep your people, give you scale. Umbrellas are for rain, Alina said. We build roofs. He tried to laugh. It came out as air. Fine, numbers. What do you think Arquan is worth? I don't sell, I said. I buy. Silence. Found a chair. Graham sipped cappuccino he hadn't sweetened and regretted the choice. He switched tactics. We have assets, you don't contracts, relationships, a program office. You don't want the distraction of back office. Let us absorb you, and will Markus, Alina, cut in, eyes on me, but voice for him, ask about covenants. Your lender, I said, turning to Graham. Are you current on interest? Any leverage ratio tripping alarms? Any payroll? Delays last cycle. A muscle in his cheek flickered. Our capitalization is fluid. Fluid is what people say when they're pouring from one empty glass to another, Alina said. Let's stop play acting. You're for sale under pressure. The question is whether we buy the furniture and leave the mold. He bristled. Heliox is a brand. Brands are graphs, I said. Right now, your brand is a down and to the right. Placed both hands on the table like he could hold the room down. What's your number? Asset purchase, I said. Not a merger, not a stock deal. We take clients who opt in. We take IP that's clean. We take equipment that works. We don't take debt. We don't take lawsuits. We don't take your promises. You get a check. Your people get options to stay if they can ship. And you go practice leisure. He blinked. For how much? Alina slid a single sheet across the table. Not a term sheet, an outline of a term sheet. Indicative. Structure, she said. Subject to diligence, lender consent, and our client's mood. It read like a blueprint in nouns. Structure, asset purchase agreement, APA. Buyer Arquan GmbH. Seller, Heliox GmbH. Consideration, 1.4 million euros cash at close. Euro 600K earn out. Over 18 months tied to client retention and net expansion for portfolios that migrate. No payment if covenants breached pre-close. Excluded liabilities. All litigation, known, unknown. Debt obligations, vendor arrears, severance beyond a specified pool. Tax liabilities pre-close. Included assets. Transferable client contracts. Subject to consent. Non-exclusive IP, equipment, domain names. Brand optional, we reserve right to sunset. Employment, offers to specified staff. No guarantees to executives. CEO excluded. Conditions, lender payoff, release, key client consents. 30-day transition services agreement, TSA for data handoff. Preservation of evidence and records without spoliation. Graham skimmed until the line that mattered to him, CEO excluded. You can't be serious. I'm never more serious than when I'm removing the reason for a fire, Alina said. He tried a smile that once worked on board members. You need me for optics. Optics follow graphs, I said. Your graph doesn't cast light. His phone pulsed on the table. No ring. Just the halo of a man who can't silence alarms anymore. He glanced, then flipped it over. My guess. Lender, what about valuation of the pipeline? He said, reaching for leverage that existed only as a word. Pipeline is a religion, Alina said. We tithe to revenue. He exhaled. Tio got us. We'll prune you, I said. Plants grow after pruning. He stared at the outline again, eyes landing on the urn. Out. This is insulting. It's generous compared to liquidation, Alina said mildly. The alternative isn't a better buyer. It's a Friday, you don't make payroll. And A Monday when your clients are on LinkedIn. He looked at me then, dropping the posture. You won't keep them, he said, soft. They'll leave out of spite. Spite is expensive, I said. Operators choose quiet checks over loud principles when the check's clear and the work gets easier. We make work easier. You made it theatrical. He rubbed his temple. Diligence will take months. 3 weeks, Alina said. I don't need to read your poetry. We need 5 things. Client lists with revenues, AR aging, vendor obligations, IP chain of title, and your lender agreement. We confirm consents. We confirm no skeletons we can't keep in the 3 weeks is an eternity when you're stalling and a blink when you're building. We lived in the blink. Diligence ran like a metronome. Priya owned the client consent matrix, every contract, every assignment upon change of control. Clause, every name who could say yes or no. Sander and Myra owned the technical inventory, what was real, what was duplicated, what was a PowerPoint with a dream. Malik owned the spine reps, warranties, exclusions, the TSA that would keep data intact while we moved it without ever pretending the past didn't exist. Alina negotiated the lender payoff like someone buying a stranded car on the shoulder of a motorway, cash, fast, with a tow truck idling. Heliox's hallways sounded different in the second week. Doors stayed half open. Laughter came in short bursts and stopped like it had hurt itself. The lender asked for daily cash updates, then twice daily. A payroll run slid from Friday morning to Friday evening to first thing Monday. LinkedIn got noisier. We met Graham one last time in a smaller room with a bigger stack of paper. He wore a suit that looked like victory and fit like memory. His counsel started with ceremony. Malik ended it with nouns. Asset purchase, Malik said, tapping the first page. We are not buying your problems. We are buying specific assets you can hand us without breaking the law or the truth. The list is on Schedule A. The lies go in the shredder. Graham's lawyer attempted a smile. No one is lying. Shredder was metaphor, Malik said. The evidence lives. We signed a term sheet that read like a redirect. Heliox gives our Quan, but only the lines that still had pulse. The week before close. Dana sent a message with the tone of a ship's bell. Board approved. Caldera will consent to assignment 4. The division, the rest will follow if outcomes hold. 2 other clients we'd never met emailed their consents unprompted with a sentence. I wanted to frame. We'd rather be measured than managed. Closing day arrived like a comma, not an exclamation point. We wired the money. The lender emailed a release that removed a weight from the air. Graham signed the TSA, the employee offers went out, and the inbox filled with short, practical replies. That said more than applause ever could. What time is the stand-up? Do we keep the Friday lock? Where are the dashboards? At 10 o'clock, I walked into the lobby where a laugh had once tried to live. Same marble, same guard. Different badge in my pocket. He looked up, registered me, and stood a little straighter. Mr. Keller, still Jonas? I asked. He smiled. Still Jonas. Thank you for the day you asked if I was good, I said. I was, eventually. He nodded toward the turnstiles. You want me to? I think I've got it, I said, and scanned in. Elevators behave like people. They remember where they're going if you tell them gently. The doors opened on a floor that once smelled like cologne and deck toner. Today it smelled like cardboard and resolve. People looked up, then down, then back up. Priya had taken a separate elevator and was already in the glass conference room, placing a stack of black notebooks on the table. Each notebook had a name on it and a clean, empty page titled Promises. Graham arrived 5 minutes late for his final meeting. He carried nothing. He sat without asking, then stood again because Alina didn't. He scanned the faces, some hopeful, some wary, some hostile in the quiet way people get when they've survived too many memos. I kept it short. Revenge makes for long speeches. Operations. Require briefings. I have 3 sentences, I said. We bought assets, not enemies. We're keeping systems that ship and retiring theater that doesn't. People who build will be rewarded like owners. People who perform ownership without building will have a dignified exit. Silence took attendance. We're changing 5 things today, Priya said, stepping in with the bell. Daily stand-up at 8:45 to 15 minutes. Cameras on, if you're remote. Every team gets a visible board, no private spreadsheets. Friday lock starts at 14 o'clock. Optimism is not an SLA. Dashboard is the meeting agenda. It's not on the dashboard. It's not on the agenda. And last, we publish our definitions and targets on a promise page. No surprises. A hand went up, not hostile curious. What happens to roles that are? Coordination. Coordination that moves numbers becomes leadership, I said. Coordination that moves slides becomes severance. We'll be specific. Mira pulled up the new portal. The old Heliox dashboards had been busy. Gradients, icons, arrows that implied forward motion irrespective of reality. Ours looked like a cardiogram for a system that had decided to live. For numbers, 3 trends. A small note in the corner that read, Friday lock in effect. Sander handed out the notebooks. Write 1 promise, he said. 1 verb you own this week. We'll read them at the stand-up. This isn't school. It's a mirror. Graham cleared his throat like a man about to say, actually. He didn't. Say it. Malik slid a folder toward him, his exit agreement, negotiated to justice, if not to grace. He signed with the flourish of someone who's performed signing in mirrors. His pen hovered like it wanted to add a last line. He put it down. Instead, on his way out, he looked at me. For the first time since the elevator, he didn't smile. You won't love payroll, he said. I love numbers, I said. Payroll is numbers with a purpose. Jonas, the guard who remembered good questions, walked him to the elevator. It wasn't a perp walk. It was a procedure. Respect is a currency. We had plenty. The town hall turned into small circles, then into pairs. Then into people at their desks, opening tabs titled promise_page.md. Priya stood in the doorway like a conductor checking the tempo. She didn't clap. She nodded. I walked the floor. One desk had a framed team photo from a launch party 3 years ago. Everyone looked 6 kilograms younger and 7 months more. Naive. The person who owned the desk looked up. Are we changing the name? Soon, I said. Not today. Today we change behavior. Names follow nouns. Back in the conference room, Alina sketched our first 30-day integration plan on the whiteboard in boxes that felt like breathing. Cut duplicate tools. Migrate the few clients who begged for clarity. Retire the 3 vanity reports Graham loved. Fire to vendors who build in adjectives. Convert 1 conference budget into a profit share pool for teams that hit their targets. The math turned grim vanity into generous gravity. Money that used to buy theater would buy quiet checks. By evening, emails began to land from clients with a tone I recognized, cautious relief. Saw the promise page. Keep it up. Can we get read-only access for our board? A 2. Actually enforce Friday lock. We replied respectively. Yes, yes, ruthlessly. That night, I wrote 3 notes by hand. To Jonas, thank you for asking the right question on the wrong day. I slid a coffee card inside to the engineer who proposed the Friday lock months ago and got ignored. Your idea is policy. A policy comes with equity. To Graham, we'll keep what works and retire what doesn't. That includes grudges. I left the last one unsent. Mercy includes silence at 21:30. The building felt like a factory after the first shift, humming, purposeful. Priya leaned in the doorway, hair uncoiling from a bun that had kept time all day. "We didn't gloat," she said. "We shipped," I said. "We also paid people on time," she added, tapping her phone. Payroll ran. We stood in the glass and watched our portal list the next 5 mornings like a weather forecast. Calm, light wind, clear by noon. Rain Friday, but not on the lock. On my way out, I stopped at the logo in the lobby. Heliox still gleamed in chrome. The negative space in the O didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like a lens. Tomorrow, we'd order new letters. Not because names fix things, but because names should tell the truth about who does Arquan Wood. Go up next month. Today didn't need a christening. It needed a checklist. We had one. Jonas lifted a hand in a small salute. I returned it, stepped into the cool Hamburg night, and didn't look back. Looking back is for nostalgia and ghosts. We had neither. Walking back in wasn't the victory. Holding the room was taff. And now, with the laugh gone and the numbers alive, the only sound that mattered was the metronome of work done right, on time, in daylight. The first month after the takeover felt less like a victory lap and more like a morning routine. Wake up, check the portal, read the promises, move a number. Repeat. On day 7, post-close, we cut the first vanity report. It had a gradient background and as many colors as it had truths. 1. Priya announced its retirement with a single sentence. If a report needs a legend longer than a paragraph, it belongs in a museum. The room laughed the safe kind of laugh, an object, not a person. We redirected the report's budget to a profit share pool. Numbers, not nouns, funded the checks. We wrote the profit share memo like a recipe card. Eligibility roles that directly move service metrics. Formula: 10% of monthly margin from cadence accounts, prorated by contribution weight. Paid the first Friday after the month closes. Visibility: a read-only sheet that updates as the month breathes. It felt radical and obvious at once. The first payouts were not large, but they were real. I watched a senior engineer stare at his deposit like a person who'd been told thank you in a language he could spend. We killed 3 tools that oversold, underbilled, and underdelivered. Sander ran the migration like a field surgery precise. Fast, no speeches. Myra replaced their function with a lighter script and a clearer log. "The simplest tool is the one humans don't notice," she said. And put another piece of theater in a box. Clients started asking for the promise page before they asked for proposals. The page did a kind of pre-sales we never could. It made us believable. One CEO forwarded it to another with a subject line I wanted to frame: "These people tell on themselves." We leaned in. When we missed a target in week 3 because a vendor forgot the Friday lock and optimism ran wild, we put the miss in bold. Dana sent a quiet note: "Trust deepens when you lose well." I wrote it on the whiteboard and didn't erase it for a month. Heliox's name came down a week before Arquan's went up. The facilities team worked on a Saturday. Jonas supervised like a curator removing a controversial painting. The chrome letters left crescents of clean wall behind them, ghosts of a brand that liked the light better than the heat. On Monday, a sign company installed simple matte characters that matched our portal's font. Arcani, no burst, no swish, no icon, promising a future it couldn't carry. Just letters that looked like they'd been there the whole time. We held one ceremony, 5 minutes, no cake. I said 3 thanks: to the clients who stayed, to the people who shipped, to the problems that taught discipline. Priya rang a literal bell once, more to set the cadence than to celebrate the bell. Graham emailed twice. The first time, he sent a short apology wrapped in a justification. The second time, he sent a longer justification wrapped in an apology. I replied to the first with a sentence I believed. We'll keep what works and retire what doesn't. I did not reply to the second. Silence, used correctly, is a kindness. The lender who once called twice a day now sent a monthly statement that looked bored. Alina negotiated a small expansion of our line purely because it would be cheap to have and expensive to need. Insurance is a line item, she said. Pride is not. Lee closed the loop on everything with the patience of a person who likes doors that latch. He filed the final signatures, archived the TSA, and wrote a memo to himself about the oddities we might only understand later. Every acquisition is a time capsule, he told me over coffee. Open it slowly. We hired, but not like conquerors. 3 people, each a multiplier. An ops coordinator who treated calendars like choreography. A data engineer who believed comments are part of code. And a customer lead who made hard calls sound like invitations. Priya ran the onboarding like a dress rehearsal by the end of week 1. Each new person could explain the Friday lock and draw our 4 metrics from memory. I started writing letters again, the kind that never trend. One to the mentor who once told me, if you can reconstruct your network from public traces, you own it. I enclosed our promise page and a profit share check made possible by that reconstruction. One to my younger self that began and ended with the same line. Replace rage with receipts. I didn't mail it. I taped it inside a notebook where only I would trip over it. Caldera renewed early and added a second division. The regional unit outside the radius became a reference without being asked. A client we'd never pitched sent a purchase order with a subject line that said, "Saw your definitions." We can live with those. We began to feel something I hadn't felt since long before the lobby. Momentum without noise. I took one afternoon. Off. Hamburg did its gray, generous thing. I walked past the cafe with the Wi-Fi is free, refills are not sign, and nodded like to an old neighbor. I crossed a bridge and watched a barge move more water than its wake seemed to allow. Progress rarely looks like speed from the bank. It looks like inevitability. When I came back, Priya had left a sticky note on my monitor. You missed a minor crisis. We handled it. Please keep missing minor crises. It is difficult to explain the relief of being unneeded in a room you built. We held a retro for the meta meeting that asks whether our habits were becoming ritual. Ritual is good until it becomes excuse, Myra said. We pruned one ceremony that had calcified and added a quarterly client council with 3 ops leaders who liked verbs. They told us where our definitions rubbed, where our reports felt smug, where our portal needed a button labeled, "Show me the human who can fix this." We added the button. The first quarter closed. The numbers were clean and a little beautiful. Backlog lines that behaved. Reopen rates that learned. Satisfaction that looked earned, not bought. We paid the first real profit share. I signed the transfers and thought of Friday afternoons in the old world, where money bought booths at conferences and the right to say strategic into microphones. We bought quiet. I wrote one last note to Jonas, the guard, who asked the right question. On the wrong day, if you ever want to change desks, we have one. He stayed in the lobby. Some people are guardians and know it. He waved me through with the same small salute as always, and I felt the strange dignity of routine. I still walk past the old logo in my head. The negative space in the O is a lens I keep on my desk, a reminder that absence can be direction if you frame it. We framed it with definitions and days. There's a story people want from endings like this: a gloat, speech, a symbolic act of reclamation. I don't have it. I have a checklist. I have a hallway that keeps extending because the people in it keep walking. I have a bell that rings at 8:45 and a graph that is never surprised, because it tells the truth first, if there's a moral. It's smaller than revenge and larger than vindication. Build systems that reward the behavior you brag about, and then stop bragging. Publish your promises, pay your people, and let your enemies become your silence. My name is Markus Keller. Once, a laugh followed me into an elevator. Now, a metronome follows me into every room. It is quieter. It is heavier. It keeps the time I always wanted to keep.